Hey YouTube, this is Steve Castillo. I try to do something a little bit different today. I want to read one of my blogs. I covered a lot of this in my book, but I want to just read over it so I could share some information about it, maybe some new thoughts that I've had since I've written and published that blog. I'm going to share my screen so that I can okay. Called The Kingdom of the Antichrist. I wrote this back in September 2015. A lot of the information in here for the book that I just published earlier this year. At the time of the end, two beasts that will be upon the earth. One of the beasts comes from the sea, from land. The first thing will be a kingdom, the kingdom of the Antichrist. The second will be the Antichrist himself. The king of the Antichrist will pretty much be set up for the Antichrist to move in and immediately start using his power for his own will. The thing that really stood out to me when I was studying this stuff is that the Bible is pretty specific when it says the first beast comes out of the water. And if you go back to Genesis, you can see that God creates land out of water. And then the second beast comes out of the land, and you go back to Genesis, again, you see the same thing. God creates man out of the land. So that is why I say that the first is part of the reason, but that is why I say the first, the kingdom, and this is the Antichrist himself. And we see, if we were to say that the first beast is the Antichrist himself, when we read Revelation, something that really stood out to me when I used to think that way was that the first beast doesn't do all the miracles. It's the second beast that does all the miracles. Or everybody says the second beast is a false prophet. I agree with that, but only I think that the false prophet and the Antichrist are the same, one and the same. It is the same person, and the first beast is actually just a kingdom or system that runs on a specific planet. With the blog, I intend to show scriptural evidence that proves the first beast from Revelation and the fourth beast from the book of Daniel are in fact that Babylon the Great on this very beast. Before we get into the scripture, let's take a moment and break down the symbols. First, we read about beasts. Well, beasts throughout the Old Testament were always, almost always, Revelation talks about these heads. Heads are kings or kingdoms also. The horns from the book of Daniel, representative of kings. And then waters are multiple people. Moving on, Revelation 13, 1 through 3. Then I saw a beast rising up out of the sea. It had 7 heads, or kingdoms, or kings, and 10 horns, which was the kings. That's why I said that the heads refer to either kings or kingdoms, and in this case, it is kingdoms. Horns. And written on each head were the names of famed God. This beast looked like a leopard. It was a leopard, but it had the feet of a bear and the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave the beast power and throne and great authority. When I saw one of the heads, one of the kingdoms, and I saw one of the heads, one of the kingdoms, as if it had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed. The saying is something significant stands out here to me. believing that a man has come back to life. Excuse me. In my theory, we can see that a kingdom that was once destroyed has now reemerged. In my opinion, Yahweh is the only one that can raise the dead to life. Now, I have heard it said that he, the Antichrist, wouldn't actually be raised from the dead, but rather cloned from the genes of Nimrod, aka Gilgamesh, aka Osiris. That is the only way I could have believed the first beast to be a man. However, after studying the Bible on my own, I only view the first beast as a kingdom that is made up of 7 kingdoms. Daniel, to understand all parts of this beast. Further, it just really, to me, Yahweh is the only one who can raise somebody from the dead. To clone a person, a human, from genes, I could totally see that being a case, and I don't think that is completely ruled out. That Satan gives this the Antichrist his power, kind of a possession taking part on a cloned human, human from God. There would be basically a vessel for possess, and given him his, being the case in Christ man. So I'm not really ruling that out. I just don't believe that is the first beast of Revelation. All right, so going down to Daniel. Daniel's beasts, you have a lion, Babylon. You have a bear, which is Persia, Media Persia, which is silver in the statue from Nebuchadnezzar. The leopard, which is Greece, and that is iron. Something else to take into consideration, the prophecy given to John in Revelation is a timeline, which just means that timeline was specific to him. It was specific to John himself. Revelation 17, 9 through 11, which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains or kingdoms on which the woman sits. And there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen. So this is the timeline. So at the time John was given the revelation, 5 kingdoms have already been fallen. There one was during his time. And when he does come, for a short space, and the beast that was, so the beast that was there is, even he is the 8th and is part of the 7. This is talking about kingdoms and not actual hills. The mountains, hills. This is not mountains or hills. So it's not talking about specific 7, or 7 hills. These are actual. The Vatican is ruled out. There's no way that about the Vatican, because it sits on 7. It doesn't work. That doesn't matter. We're talking about kingdoms. The angel is speaking to John, so this timeline can only be used from the moment in time that John heard this. No history be placed. It doesn't work any other time. Next, we need to find out who were the first 5 kingdoms that had already fallen. First world power, historically ruling from about 1200 BC to BC. Next was Assyria from about to 606 BC. At this time is when Babylon comes into the picture. We have Persia, Greece, and then at that point, when John received the message, Rome was ruling. 5 that we have are Egypt, Assyria, Persia, and then we had Rome during that time. So there was one more that still was not there, and 6. So we have the 6 there. Rome would continue to rule for some time after John's death, but we at least can see the 5 kingdoms that had fallen, and we know who the 6th was. Rome eventually was split into 2 empires with the help of Constantine. Half centered in Rome, and the eastern half centered in Constantinople. Constantine named after himself. When Constantine did this, he also moved the Roman capital, Constantinople. I'm sorry, I should say it was now Constantinople. The Western Empire fell. The one where you had Constantinople. It was the one that was not in Europe, but more Middle Eastern. But the Eastern reigned on for a while as the Byzantine Empire. But that, to point out, is that Constantinople is present-day Istanbul, Turkey. The Ottoman Empire came next with the fall of the Byzantine Empire. So when Byzantine fell, the Ottoman Empire took over. The Ottoman Empire is the 7th kingdom. This is the next one. This is the Ottoman Empire comes right after Rome. Remember that the 8th kingdom, 7. Something else to take into consideration is that the Turkish Ottoman Empire flag, crescent moon with the star. This just so happens to be the very same symbol that ancient Babylon used, the very symbol of Baal and Ashtaroth from Babylon, proudly displayed on the Ottoman flag. 1 kingdom left. About this, or what we know about this, is the 7th kingdom is also the 8th. Something to think about. 7th kingdom is also the 8th, or is of the 8th. Depending on how you read that, the 7th kingdom could be directly to Ottoman Empire, which is where I lean, just to kind of give you a heads up there. Revelation 17, 1-3. Then 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and talked with me, saying to me, "Come, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot who sits on many waters." So the harlot who sits with many people, sits on many people, the harlot who basically has lots of people, with whom the kingdom of the earth committed fornication. And the inhabitants of the earth were made drunk with her wine, or with the wine of her fornication. Carried me away into the spirit, into the wilderness. Before we go any further, the word wilderness there is directly related to the word desert. I know when I first read this, when I read wilderness, I immediately thought, woodsy area, kind of wilderness. You get lost in the wilderness, you're in the woods. Well, that's not the case. This is a desert. So he carried me away in the spirit into the desert. And I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast. This is in the desert. A woman in the desert sitting on a scarlet beast, full of the names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. So this woman was in the desert, up on 7 different kingdoms, with 10 different kings out of those 7 kingdoms. Very interesting. When you really break it down and kind of see what it's saying, it definitely seems to go against a little bit of what is, popular end times prophecy stuff. We know that the woman is Babylon of the end days. We can see here is that Babylon is specifically associated with the first beast. Is specifically associated with Babylon. Well, Babylon is a kingdom. Obviously it's a piece of land. It's somehow, some way, Babylon, Mystery Babylon is that it's land. It's an area. The woman is part of that. So that's something to definitely take into consideration. So if you originally held to the idea that the first beast was the Antichrist, ask yourself this: how can Babylon sit upon the Antichrist? Also, how can the Antichrist have multiple heads or kingdoms? Beast is a kingdom itself, comprised of multiple nations. So definitely a kingdom can have multiple nations inside of it, multiple kings ruling over different areas. That makes sense. Different regions of those areas or of that kingdom is, as we read it is more similar to the leopard. Looks, considering it looks like a leopard and has added attributes of the other ancient kingdoms. This kingdom is a mixture of all that came before it. I would like to point out is that the beast, kingdoms, and 10 kings are also known as Babylon. So Babylon sits upon, in the desert, the woman, Babylon, sits, is basically held up by the 10 kingdoms and the 7 kingdoms and 10 kings, but so that's kind of hard to understand right now, but we'll probably get into a little bit more of that in one of the next videos. I say that this beast is the kingdom. Oh, sorry, Revelation 17:15 through 18. Then he said to me, the waters which you saw where the harlot sits are peoples. So there it tells you that the water is actually people, multitudes, nations. That it is these nations and tongues. So it covers all of these. It covers this specific nations, which hold lots of people, multitudes, in different language. And the 10 horns on the beast hate the harlot. So those kings, those 10 kings, absolutely hate this woman. They absolutely hate this city, piece of land, Babylon. They will make her desolate and naked. They will eat her flesh and burn her with fire. That is a big deal right there. Into their hearts to fulfill his purpose of one mind. So all of these 10 kings are of one mind. They all have one main goal, and to give their kingdom to the beast. And they have every intention to give their kingdom to the first beast. So they're dedicated their land to this first beast, which is this major kingdom, this major overall kingdom system. The words of God are fulfilled, and the woman who is that great city. See that? There you go. The woman is that great city. The woman is Babylon, which reigns over the kings of the earth. So Babylon, this city, all of the kings of the earth. How is that possible? In another blog for sure. If you want to read ahead, it's off to the side here. You can go check that out. Over there for you guys to check out. I say that this beast is the kingdom of the Antichrist because that is the way it is explained in the Bible. At least that's how I read it. The first explanation we read about Daniel, or given, is given to Daniel. The next is given to John in the book of Revelations. Both explanations come from an angel. In my opinion, if it's coming from an angel, a heavenly being, the Bible tells us it's an angel. It doesn't tell us it's bad angel, fallen angel, nothing like that. So it is something that I believe, based on these explanations, it only makes sense that it is true. These explanations are so similar. It is obvious for the fourth beast from Daniel and the first beast from John's vision to be the same beast being described. Daniel has a dream in which he sees 4 beasts, and I'm going to go ahead and read a couple. They all come from Daniel 7. 7:3, Daniel 7:3. The 4 huge beasts came up out of the water, each different from the others. 8. Then in my vision that night, I saw a 4th beast, terrifying, dreadful, and very strong. It devoured victims with huge iron teeth. We read about, and trampled their remains beneath its feet. It was different from any other beast. 10 horns. We read about. It was considering the horns, and there was another horn, a little one, among them, for whom 3 of the first horns out by their roots. So 3 of those kings from the 10 are killed by this little horn. The little horn is who I believe the Antichrist is. In this horn, like the eyes of a man and the mouth speaking pompous words. So this little horn is the Antichrist. He kills off 3 of those kings, which I think one of them, the king of Babylon. Daniel, the beast being described, come from out of the sea. Daniel describes the first beast, attributes similar to those of animals, a lion, a leopard, a bear. The fourth beast, however, never gets such a label. The next beasts are horns, and are these. The 4 huge beasts represent 4 kingdoms right now, 4 kingdoms that will arise from the earth. This 4th beast is the 4th world power. Rule the earth. Different from all others, it will devour the whole world, trampling and crushing everything in its path. And kings who will rule that empire will arise, different from the other 10, 3 of them. So it tells you right there, the Antichrist comes in and kills 3 of those kings. Almost positive that one of those kings is the king of Babylon, based on all the other stuff that we read. Revelation 17, 12 through 14. The 10 horns of the beast are 10 kings who have not yet risen to power. So those 10 kings still haven't come in John's day. They will be appointed for one brief moment to reign with the beast. That's the Antichrist, the second beast. The beasts are kingdoms. I believe the 4th beast is terrifying, dreadful, and very strong, is the first beast from Revelation that will be ruled by the Antichrist, the 4th world power. I'm sorry, the 4th world power was different from any other world powers. This kingdom is significant and unique. Something about it is very scary to the people of the earth. My opinion is that the people of them are killing and destroying many nations, conquering and devouring all that they pass through. Unlike them, they are unstoppable, considering the main body of the beast is similar to that of Greece, considering he was king and he went through all of the world, conquering and destroying in his path. We will see very similar actions and results of the Alexander the Great. Both the 4th beast from Daniel and the first beast from Revelations have 10 kings. Daniel says the last king will be different than the others, and Revelation said that they will reign with the beast, the Antichrist, for a short time. The beast kingdom will have all 10 kingdoms united with one purpose and one goal. That goal is to make war with all of Yahweh's people. So for a short time, the Antichrist will reign with all 10 kings. Then he will eventually kill 3 of them and go on from there. Revelation 17, 12 through 14. The 10 are 10 kings who have received no kingdom as of yet, but they receive authority for 1 hour as kings with the beast. One mind. They all have the same common goals. Will give their power and authority to the beast. These will make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb will overcome them. Lord of Lords and King of Kings, and those who are with him are called chosen and faithful. Or the beginning of sorrows have begun, then we can assume that the kingdom or nation is either already here or will emerge very soon. This nation will be very powerful and will have a strong influence over the entire earth. It will start a war against the chosen people of God and conquer them. I need to revise that a little bit. I'm not 100% sure that they will completely conquer God's people. I think that they will subjugate them. I think that they will oppress them, definitely kill lots and lots of God's people. No doubt in my mind that a lot of God's people will be completely. Revelation 13:7, and the beast was allowed to wage war against God's holy people and to conquer them, and he was given authority to rule over every tribe and people and language and nation. So, I mean, that's what I was saying. I obviously he does get control and conquer a lot of God's people. However, I can't say that he specifically rules over the whole world. His own authority, he even saying he is given authority to rule over the every tribe, people, nation. Wondering that is specific to the nation, the area in which he is. Basically, what I'm saying is the whole Bible is Middle Eastern centered. It's centered around Israel. It's centered around the Middle East. Back to the Alexander the Great thing. Alexander the Great, when you read about it, he conquered the whole world. The whole world did not mean every nation today. That makes me think is when Revelation was written, is it considering every piece of land in the world today? I don't think so. I think it is specifically centered around the Middle East and maybe even spread out a little bit more. Middle East, maybe Africa, some of Africa, Northern Africa. I don't really believe that it covers every part of the whole world. I guess what I want to say is if we look at the Middle East right now and parts of Europe, Islam has spread areas, and basically they have conquered all of those areas. Most of those places are very highly Islam centered. Okay, so I don't have much more. I'm gonna have to get. I have somewhere that I need to be. Where was I? As we can see, the beasts are kingdoms. I believe the fourth beast that Daniel claims is terrifying, dreadful, and very strong is the first beast from Revelation. It is the kingdom that will be ruled by the Antichrist, the fourth world power, which is different from any other world powers. This is significant and unique. Something about it is very scary to the people of the earth. My opinion is that the people of this beast kingdom are killing and destroying many of the other kingdoms and nations, conquering and devouring them. I read all that. The 10 horns, which you saw all the way down here. I'm sorry, people. God's holy people in this passage could be talking about Israel, or it could be talking, speaking about believers. Personally, I believe that these groups. Either way, this powerful kingdom, when we see the command to attack Israel or the attack on all those that practice Christianity, one or both of these two things will happen. Either Israel will be defeated or believers will be oppressed, imprisoned, and killed. I am leaning more toward the latter based on the words of Christ. He said believers would be persecuted in his name. Him to be the Son of God. One thing that I would like to note here is that we see this happening in the Middle East today. Islam and Muslim extremists are invading villages and killing believers every day. There seems to be an agenda, and that agenda seems to be directly related to what we read in the Bible. This kingdom will undoubtedly be full of evils. Again, looking at the Middle East, we see that Islam blasphemes the name of Yeshua, which is Jesus, when considering the Middle East and Islam as a possible area for the first beast. It really starts to fit more when I read the book of 1 John. Who is a liar but he who denies that Jesus is Christ? He is Antichrist, who denies the Father and the Son. Islam not only denies that Yeshua, Jesus, is the Son of Yahweh, but also claims that Yahweh has no children, denying both the Father and the Son. The Antichrist is this very thing. Aside from atheists, it seems to me that not many other religions denies their gods from having children. Islam has the spirit of the Antichrist and is built in part of their system. Not God will be the driving force for all things. Men will be treated as slaves by those who are wealthy. That already happens. Unjust laws will be written in favor of the rich. That already happens. And to discriminate against the poor. That already happens. The unemployed and the bastard child will be viewed as nothing more than pests and a drain on the system. That already happens. Murder, addiction, sexual morality, drunkenness, and the hatred of Yahweh will be common in this land. That already happens everywhere. Here in America, nothing will be thought of as sacred, including marriage. That already happens. Divorce and premarital sex will be common. That already happens. Extramarital affairs will touch the lives of high-ranking officials. That already happens. Those thoughts, holy men will commit obscene and lewd acts. The altar of Yahweh no longer sacred. That already happens. All these things will reinforce believers' ideas that there is no creator of the universe, allowing them to scoff at even the idea of God. Also have the most powerful soldier, strong enough to be feared by the entire world. Not so sure I agree with that statement anymore. Commanded by the Antichrist himself. About the military system in several books of the Bible, but that will be for another post. If you are interested in reading more, check out my book, The Other Gods Exploring Ancient Identity. Check out for this specific topic book, Tribulation Kingdom. Find all that on Amazon. Have to go. I wish it wasn't so abrupt, but I have an appointment that I need to get to here in the next few minutes. But I'm glad I got a chance to go ahead and read this and show you guys a little bit of what I've been working on. My book did come out. It's called Tribulation Kingdom, Discovering the Antichrist, Babylon, Israel, and the Second Coming. To get back on here and read a couple more blogs, go over a few more things, just talk about some different things that I am discovering every day. So until next time, this is again Steve Castile, and I will